It's Christmas week, and the calendar is full. Church, family dinner, and just drop by for a bit. Getting out the door is a scramble, and your car ride is a loop of, where are we going? And the evenings spike your person's agitation, even though they often enjoy it once you arrive. You are left choosing what to keep and what to skip. If that sounds like your Christmas week, this episode will help you see where you can anchor your activities and keep decisions firmly where they need to be, in your hands, so you can see how to be a discerning Christian caregiver using sound biblical principles built on your love of Christ while navigating your caregiving season. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome to Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians, the podcast where we help Christians discern their heaviest problem, whether it's carrying the heavy burdens of caregiving, having hard conversations with the people you love, the difficult decisions we often need to make and then remake, and all the emotions we live with during the hard places and spaces of caregiving. Today's episode is about the hard decisions that Sarah needed to consider during this Christmas season to honor her grandmother while balancing her other roles and responsibilities. In this episode, listen for how clarity begins to form, especially around which commitments matter the most, where simple limits can protect your bandwidth, and how clearer discernment can make decisions less reactive and more faithful. And if this episode resonates with you, join the Christian Caregiver Society at the foundation's level. It is designed to help Bible-believing caregivers with discernment and clarity in a steady, like-minded community without any pressure. The lifetime access is $97 through December the 31st. Then it will become $97 a year. This is the next step for those who want clearer thinking and calm structure before making bigger decisions. You can join at thinkdifferentdementia.com/join, or you can use the link in the show notes below. So listen today for how choosing one anchor and simple exit options has kept the holidays workable without overextending anyone. Use it to see your own situation more clearly. Now, let's get into our conversation today with Sarah. Thank you for being here, Sarah. So to start us off today, what has felt the hardest for you in your caregiving right now?
I think that it is trying to navigate how much to keep grandma engaged in going out.
Okay.
When we go someplace, the getting up and the going and the getting out the door and all of that becomes very overwhelming and very frustrating. But yet, most of the time, and even sometimes the car ride, where are we going? How long is it going to take to get there? Causing a stressful situation. But when you get there, she seems to enjoy her time, although that's kind of hit and miss. Like occasionally we don't. So particularly with the holidays coming up and the opportunity to do lots of things, how do I know when to keep going and when it's time to slow down or to make those things successful for her?
Okay. So if your caregiving felt easier 6 months from now, what would be different? The burdens, the conversations, the decisions, or the emotions? Just pick one.
Decisions.
Okay. Decisions. I love that. That's a good thing. So the one question that I heard you kind of ask, and I'm just going to paraphrase it at the beginning, was how to decide with the holidays coming up, how much to engage your grandmother in all of these activities, the busyness. Was that an accurate summary?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So would it be okay to hear a few ideas that came up for me as you were talking?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Wonderful. So I'll start with a little bit of education. I love to do education. Being engaged in her environment, being engaged with other people, particularly social engagement is very, very beneficial for people living with dementia. And having said that, there's a balance between doing too much and not doing enough. And so the best way to be able to start to determine that is sometimes by trial and error and using some general parameters. So let me ask a couple of clarification questions if it's okay.
Mhm.
When you picturing the holiday season coming up,
Mhm.
what are the activities that are super special to you that you would like to have your grandmother there?
Um, it's become a routine to go to my daughter's church for their big Christmas celebration and Christmas Eve service, and then Christmas Eve with my sister-in-law and Christmas Day with the rest of our family.
Okay. So you mentioned your daughter's church, a Christmas Eve service, something else. What was this?
And then two actual Christmases.
Okay. So
Those would probably be the 4, and then there's a play too that we could see.
I'm sorry,
Right?
that one broke up. Say
And
that again.
and a play that my husband and I will probably go, that we're trying to decide, do we take her or do we find other arrangements?
Okay. So let's look at the calendar. Let's just talk logistics for a second. Your daughter's church, is that on Christmas Day or is that like the week before or
I have day not going to be the week of Christmas. No, it will not be Christmas week.
okay, so your daughter's church is not Christmas week.
Yes.
But Christmas is on a Thursday. So we're talking about a Wednesday evening and a Thursday. Do you have a Christmas Eve service, and then it sounded like there were two other Christmas Day things?
Yeah, there's a Christmas Eve and Christmas at my sister-in-law's house. And there is an option of a Christmas Eve service that's like not Eve, like afternoon. So it would be like a 3 o'clock service, then my sister-in-law's house, and then Christmas Day.
Okay, so the order is a 3 p.m. Christmas Eve service, then going to your sister-in-law for Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day,
Yes.
and a play.
Possibly. Yeah, that would be the 5th one. The program at my daughter's church would be earlier in December. I don't have the exact dates in front of me.
Okay. So just on Christmas, just for
Yes.
Christmas per se,
Mhm.
the earlier is okay because that's separate.
Mhm.
Whichever ones are on their own
Yes.
or separate. You have three major big things in a very short period of time.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. When thinking through this particular opportunity, knowing yourself,
Mhm.
your grandmother melting down or things being unpleasant,
Mhm.
which one is going to hurt the most?
Wow. Repeat that again.
Okay. So if we do all of these things,
Oh, okay, okay.
if we do all of these things and something goes south
Yes.
and she's having a bad day and she has responsive behaviors because of everything going on, which one will hurt your feelings or make you feel bad or make you feel which one's going to be the worst for you to think through or emotionally think through afterwards?
Mm. Of the 3 that are closest together or all of them?
Of the three that are closest together.
I would guess Christmas Day, probably.
Okay, Christmas Day.
Mhm.
So we know that that is the one she needs to be at.
Yes, mhm.
Okay. So that Christmas Day one is at your sister?
It's at my dad's house.
Okay. Is it easily accessible?
Yes. Like, I live next door to my dad, so that would be the advantage of that, like, if she really needed some alone time, we need to separate, we could go home for a little bit.
Okay.
And the party, so to speak, some of that could transfer to our house if she just needs to feel at home, and it's not just the amount of people that is overwhelming. So or we can just escape for a little bit of our time and go back later or whatever, so
Okay. So I like the one at your dad's house. You can control the environment either at his house by keeping her in a room that is quieter
Uh-huh.
and having people go into her,
Mhm.
or at your house and having people go in to see her. So that one seems to me to be a no-brainer, right? That one is the one that definitely needs to occur. Now we need to look at Christmas Eve.
Mhm.
Let me ask you about how is she later in the day?
I would say that um, as a general rule, that's when she becomes the most agitated or the most frequent time that she asks, "When are we going home?" or "I wanna go home," or "Where are we?" And the drive home from a place in the evening is more likely to bring about, "Where are we and where are we going and how long is it going to take to get?"
Okay. So of the two, Christmas Eve service at 3 p.m., and then the other thing at your sister-in-law's,
Mhm.
right? So that's your husband's
Sister, yes.
sister.
Mhm.
Um, Knowing a little bit more of your family's story, is it possible that Lucinda could be there with her at your house on Christmas Eve and allow you to go to your sister-in-law and you take your grandmother to the 3 p.m. church service? Are those possibilities?
Not really, because
Okay.
we have such a small family. Actually, my family will also be at my sister-in-law's. So,
Okay. I love it. I love
yeah.
it. So, what is the worst thing that can happen if you take her to the 3 p.m. service and then go to your sister-in-law's?
Um, the very worst that she is just agitated and cannot settle and is, "I wanna go home. Where are we? Who are these so
So, when thinking of that particular situation, what would make you regret it more? Trying to cope or help her through that so that you could still do it, or keeping the environment to the point, but that means you cannot participate in your family gatherings?
I would rather go, and it would be easier for me to deal with grandma being agitated. I just want to know that that's okay in grandma's world
Okay.
if she gets agitated. I mean, what is best for grandma? I can work through that. And in gatherings like that, I also have more support, when I'm like, all right, Lucinda, you got a suggestion? Or my girls will be there. Why don't you go try talking to grandma? Like, there is more help and brain power there.
I love it. So the medical model will tell you do everything to mitigate and or keep a person from having any of these kinds of what's called responsive behaviors,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
The reality is that the more the person lives, the more the person is living. We don't need to, we
mhm,
do not need to put people in a container or a box
mhm.
just to keep them as best we can have them, right?
Okay.
That's one way. Like, that is literally what the medical model teaches us. And I saw this. Most of you guys have heard me talk about going on a dementia supported cruise. So I spent 2 weeks on a cruise with people living with dementia and their families. They were out of
Wow.
their normal environment. Nothing was routine. Everybody had a blast. And yes, we had some responsive behaviors. We coped with them. We de-escalated it. We accommodated their responsive behaviors so that they could still be there and participate and engage in their world. And what that opportunity affords people is their family is making memories. They have the photos, they have the memories of their family member still being actively engaged and participating. So, as long as you feel and believe that you have the bandwidth to cope with it, it is not harmful to your grandmother to feel a little bit of agitation.
Wow. That's
Okay. Um, am I going, like, if she is so anxious that you cannot talk her down,
mhm,
that's one thing. But what I'm envisioning is she's an analogy that I use a lot for people is most of us are still familiar with an old slide projector, right?
mhm,
The slide falls in the program, you can see the thing, then, it pulls out and it turns and there's the next photo. She is living minute by minute each one of those slides. So when the slide is in and you tell her we're at Lucinda's house for Christmas, whatever, right? And it makes her happy. But then the projector turns and the next minute she's asking again. Asking a repetitive question is not necessarily anxious.
mm, mhm,
Asking a repetitive question is literally, I forgot what you just said. So anxious would be different, right? The pacing and trying to get out the door.
mhm,
I'm in the car and I'm so afraid I'm trying to get out of the car. Those kinds of situations, I don't necessarily want to put her in that. But if it's not something that's looking like that, then engaging her in her environment and keeping
谢谢，
her
现在都有
engaged
点儿那个，
is 100% appropriate as long as the situation you're putting her in doesn't frustrate you to the point that it starts a snowball.
Mm-hmm.
So be mindful
Mm-hmm.
of all of the things that can contribute. Just looking at this, it's a lot, and that doesn't mean that it's not still possible to do. It just means that you have to walk into it with your eyes open and knowing and understanding that if something goes south, you may have to pivot and do something different. But trying is not wrong. Engaging her is not wrong. Keeping her a part of the family is most vital. The reality is, I know your granny's 99. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this may be her last Christmas. I don't want to put her in a box. I don't want to put her in a glass cage that says she cannot still live, because yes, she's not going to remember, but you are.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we can continue to talk about that, but as long as what I tell people all the time is frustration is always in the gap between expectation and reality. So as long as we can manage your expectation that it may not be all rose-colored glasses and we may have to adapt and we may have to do things differently, that's okay, because
Mm-hmm.
if we do that, then your reality and the expectations are closer, then you're not frustrated. But if you're expecting, you, not you, Sarah, but if a person is expecting it to be XYZ and the reality isn't there, then they get frustrated. So as long as you can manage your expectations that it may not look exactly the way it always has, and that's okay, I think go for it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You are most welcome. So, what is one small step that you feel like you can take next week?
Um, I mean, I really loved what you were talking, that the frustration comes between expectations and realities, because that has been something I've been working through, because I really went through a really hard couple of weeks, a month back, of being extremely frustrated. And I did find that that was it. Like, I need to change my expectations. So to hear that, and I have a lot of questions about not just Christmas, but other things about, do I keep going and taking grandma, or do I need to change what I'm doing? And I um, just loved your supportive effort of making sure that she's still living and engaged, and knowing that that's okay, and that that is better, and managing the frustration along the way, instead of trying to keep her in a safe bubble where she's not frustrated. So,
Well, we have to manage your frustration and hers, right?
yes.
So the perception is that she's frustrated because she's asking questions over and over. Reframe that for yourself. Is she really frustrated, or is she just asking questions
Okay.
over and over?
Okay.
Right? Because she's not necessarily thinking,
Mhm.
she's forgotten, she's just asked it. So because a person's asking the questions over and over, it can appear like they are frustrated.
Mhm.
And maybe they're not. Maybe they are, right? But maybe they're not. You have to watch the person's body language too, because there's a difference between um asking a repetitive question because I've forgotten, or I'm winding up and I'm asking questions.
Oh, mhm.
They're
Okay.
different situations, right? And without being there, it's sometimes hard to tell. But like when my dad was super sick, he would tell me ask me the same question every day. It was just he couldn't remember. And
Mhm.
he wasn't frustrated. And I just answered it. And so I wasn't frustrated.
Mhm.
But there are people that are actually getting anxious, and those are separate situations.